Have you ever walked into a place and suddenly felt like you've been there before, but you know you haven't? Or maybe you're in the middle of a conversation, and for a split second, it feels like you've already had this exact conversation before, like a weird brain glitch? Well, you're not alone. This strange feeling, called déjà vu, happens to nearly 70% of people. But here's the crazy part. Even after decades of research, scientists still don't fully understand why it happens. So before we dive into the science, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's the strangest déjà vu experience you've ever had? Maybe it lasted for a few seconds, or maybe you felt trapped in a weird time loop. Share your stories. I'll be reading them. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly what's going on. Plus, we'll explore some wild theories, including one that suggests déjà vu might mean you've actually lived this moment before in another reality. Let's dive in. So if your brain just tricked you into remembering a word that wasn't there, what if déjà vu is doing something similar? What if it's not about reliving a past moment, but about your brain misfiring and making you think you have? Déjà vu is that eerie, unsettling feeling that you've already lived through a moment, even though you know it's impossible. The term itself comes from French, and it literally means already seen. But déjà vu isn't just about seeing. Some people experience it while hearing a conversation, or even just sensing a familiar feeling. Here's something weird. Déjà vu happens to about 60 to 70% of people, but it's way more common in younger adults, especially those between 15 and 25 years old. After that, it starts to fade. And here's another mystery. People who experience frequent déjà vu might actually have something unique going on in their brains. So what's really happening inside your brain when déjà vu strikes? Is it a glitch in your memory system? A timing error? Or could it be linked to something more serious, like epilepsy? Let's dive into the science and figure it out. Alright, so we know déjà vu feels like a memory from the past. But what if it's actually your brain making a mistake in real time? Scientists believe that déjà vu isn't a memory problem. It's a processing error in the brain. Basically, your brain gets confused between something new and something familiar. One possible explanation? Your brain misfires and stores new information as if it's an old memory. Imagine you're walking into a new coffee shop and your brain accidentally mislabels the experience. So instead of thinking this is new, your memory system briefly registers it as something I've seen before. Boom, instant déjà vu. It's like a glitch in the brain's file system, where your new experience gets mistakenly saved in the already seen folder. Another theory suggests that déjà vu is caused by a tiny lag in the way your brain processes information. Here's the idea. Normally, your brain takes an information, processes it, and then makes you consciously aware of it. But what if, just for a split second, your brain processes the same information twice? The first time, it happens subconsciously, and the second time, your brain registers it as a conscious thought. Because these two signals are just milliseconds apart, your brain gets confused and thinks the moment has already happened before. Think of it like an echo in your brain. You're experiencing something, but a tiny processing delay makes it feel like a replay. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Déjà vu might not just be a random brain glitch. It's actually a common symptom of temporal lobe epilepsy. In some people, déjà vu happens just before a seizure, kind of like a warning sign from their brain. These episodes, called auras, happen because of abnormal electrical activity in the temporal lobe, which is the part of the brain responsible for memory and recognition. In fact, neurologists have found that stimulating the temporal lobe with electrodes during brain surgery can actually trigger déjà vu experiences on command. So déjà vu could be a glitch in memory, a timing error, or even a sign of epilepsy. But what if déjà vu is something more mysterious? What if it's not just your brain messing up, but something bigger? A glitch in reality? A parallel universe? Let's explore the wildest theories behind déjà vu, starting with one that might make you question everything. Okay, so we've explored the scientific explanations for déjà vu. We know it could be a memory glitch, a timing error, or even linked to epilepsy. But here's the thing. What if déjà vu isn't just a brain hiccup? What if it's a sign of something bigger? Today, we're going to explore some of the wildest theories about déjà vu, ideas that step outside neuroscience and into the unknown. And trust me, by the end of this, you might start questioning everything you know about reality. What if déjà vu isn't a brain glitch, but a coding glitch? Some scientists and philosophers believe we might actually be living in a simulation, a super advanced program designed to mimic reality. And according to this theory, déjà vu happens when there's a small error in the system, kind of like a piece of code repeating itself. Think about it. Video games and simulations sometimes experience glitches, right? Characters clip through walls, objects appear where they shouldn't, or the same event happens twice. What if déjà vu is the same thing, but in our reality? Ever seen The Matrix? In the movie, the characters experience déjà vu when the simulation restarts or resets. Some people believe that feeling of "I've been here before" could be your brain catching a glitch in reality itself. Sounds crazy? Maybe. But some of the world's brightest minds, including Elon Musk, have said that the odds we're not living in a simulation are 1 in billions. So what do you think? Could we all just be part of an insanely advanced simulation? Or is déjà vu just a simple brain trick? Let me know in the comments. All right, let's get even weirder. What if déjà vu is actually proof that multiple versions of reality exist? Some physicists believe in the concept of parallel universes, the idea that for every possible choice you make, a new universe is created where you picked the other option. According to this theory, déjà vu happens when two of these parallel timelines briefly sync up. And for just a moment, you get a glimpse of an experience your other self has already lived through. Imagine this. There's another version of you, right now, in another timeline, doing almost exactly what you're doing, but they've already lived this moment slightly ahead of you. Déjà vu could be a tiny overlap between two realities. Have you ever had a déjà vu so intense it felt like you knew exactly what was going to happen next? If so, drop a cyclone in the comments. Okay, let's step even further outside of science. Some people believe déjà vu might actually be a memory from a past life. The idea is that you've lived another life before this one, and certain moments triggered deep memories from that past experience. Think about it. Have you ever traveled somewhere new, but felt like you already knew the layout of the streets? Or felt an instant connection to a place you've never been? Some people believe this is because your soul has been there before. There have even been documented cases of children who claim to remember specific details from a past life, things they couldn't possibly know. Some kids recall names, locations, and historical events that later turn out to be real. One of the most famous cases involved a young boy who described living in a town he had never visited, naming people who actually existed, down to the exact details of their lives. Now, is this just coincidence? A subconscious brain trick? Or actual proof that some memories transcend lifetimes? Have you ever had an experience where you just knew something you shouldn't have? Could it be a past life? Tell me what you think. So, déjà vu, what's really behind it? Is it just your neurons misfiring, a glitch in reality, or evidence of something beyond what science can explain? Well, we may never know for sure. But one thing's clear. Our brains are still full of mysteries waiting to be unlocked. Before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned today. And one last mind-blowing fact about déjà vu. All right, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned today. Déjà vu is a strange feeling that you've lived a moment before, even when you know you haven't. Science says it might be a memory glitch, a timing error, or even linked to epilepsy. But some people believe déjà vu is something more, a glitch in the matrix, a peek into a parallel universe, or even a memory from a past life. So, is déjà vu just a quirk of the brain? Or is it a sign of something bigger than we can explain? That's up to you to decide. But before we wrap up, here's one last crazy fact. Did you know there's a condition called chronic déjà vu? Some people experience déjà vu constantly, to the point where they feel trapped in a time loop, convinced that everything around them has already happened. Scientists believe this might be linked to temporal lobe dysfunction, but honestly, it sounds like living in a real-life sci-fi movie. Now I want to hear from you. What's the craziest déjà vu experience you've ever had? Do you believe it's just a brain glitch? Or could it be something more? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading and replying. And if you love this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode of the Mind Lab. We drop new episodes every Saturday, decoding the mysteries of the brain, one story at a time. Next time on the Mind Lab, we're diving into another mind-bending topic, one that might just make you question everything you remember. Curious? Stay tuned.